In our latest Instagram post, we introduced this blog issue by detailing what happens to a person after brain injury. Dr. Nedd here is going to briefly describe this process before we discuss today's topic of what to be done when chaos occurs in the brain.
So thank you, Ellie. So let's start by talking about trauma to the brain as a disruption of the connections, the very complex organization of these connections. Over 100 billion nerve cells with over 1,000 trillion connections. When this disruption occurs, it impairs the cyclic operation of our bodies and the brain. It then causes symptoms and signs that we experience every day following concussion. Those signs and symptoms lead our bodies to make adaptive changes that result in certain type of behaviors.
You said concussions, but that would just be one form of trauma to the brain, right?
Absolutely. Well,
Good example.
brain injury as a whole could cause the same disruption. So this could occur in strokes, this could occur in persons with other types of brain injury. So as an example, when the brain is injured, there are certain cycles, like sleep-wake cycle or energy cycle becomes disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
When that occurs, when you can't sleep, obviously you're at risk for headaches. You get dizzy more often.
These are the symptoms.
These are the symptoms. And of course, if you go out in public and you're dizzy all the time, you're gonna become withdrawn, you'll avoid things.
So
And
behaviors.
that's the behaviors. And those behaviors would result in things like feeling insecure, causing you to feel anxious.
Okay.
So that's an example.
So then it basically kind of turns into your personality trait.
Absolutely.
And your character trait as someone just thinking about you as being an angry person.
Correct.
When in reality, it was just all due to the TBI or traumatic.
Brain injury or
Yeah.
concussion. Correct.
Okay, so let's answer the big question of what can be done when this chaos does occur in the brain.
Well, first, we have to think about this as preservation. How do you preserve the brain? How do you preserve the connections?
So that's step one,
Step one.
preserve.
Right. Step two would, how do you restore what's disorganized? How do you restore organization? And third, if you can't restore the organization, then how do you compensate so that you can function?
Okay, so how are these three steps done?
I introduce in my book a concept called the Beth Method. And the Beth Method stands for Brain Hierarchical Evaluation and Treatment Methodology. This has to do with the organization of the brain from the most complex, what we call the head behavior, to the least complex, what we call the tail behavior.
Right.
Now, the degree of disorganization in the brain is tied to the degree of dysfunctionality that one sees after injury. And utilizing the Beth Method, it allows us to know exactly where we are in the state of disorganization, but it also allows us to come up with treatment methods at different stages, different levels of disorganization. And this is an orderly way of how we could evaluate and treat the brain.
So, in plain terms, the BHET method focuses on understanding the level and the degree of disorganization in the brain.
Correct. And of course, it also focuses on the treatment options of how to approach the brain and how to approach treatment of the brain following injury.
Does that have to do with brain healing in any sense?
Of course. And in a prior video, we discussed this whole concept of neuroplasticity and how the brain uses this method to actually heal and recover.
And rewire and restore and all of it.
Exactly.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, Dr. Nedd, for describing how this chaos occurs in the brain and what we can do. That's it for today.
Thank you.